The world number one walked onto the practice court at the Design Center Linz expecting the usual routine. A few fans, a few cameras, the quiet focus of a champion preparing for battle. Instead, Aryna Sabalenka found herself surrounded by thousands of Philippine flags. The chants of "Laban Alex" echoed through the arena. The stands were packed with Filipino fans who had traveled from across Europe, not to see her, but to catch a glimpse of Alex Eala practicing on the next court over. The contrast could not have been starker. Eala, ranked number 46 in the world, who has never won a Grand Slam, who just dropped from a career-high number 29 after failing to defend her Miami Open points, was drawing crowds that the world number one could only dream of. And when Sabalenka looked at her own practice session, sparse crowds, polite applause, the quiet hum of a tournament that had been overrun by the Eala effect, something snapped. The four-time Grand Slam champion, who has spent years building her brand, winning titles, and climbing to the top of the rankings, had finally had enough. The moment Aryna Sabalenka stepped onto the practice court at the Design Center Linz, she knew something was different. The world number one, the four-time Grand Slam champion, the woman who had just completed the Sunshine Double by winning both Indian Wells and Miami, is used to being the center of attention. Wherever she goes, cameras follow. Fans clamor for autographs. The buzz of her presence fills the stadium. But in Linz, Austria, the buzz was not for her. Philippine flags dotted the stands. Chants of "Laban Alex" echoed through the arena. Thousands of Filipino fans who had traveled from Vienna, from Munich, from across Europe, packed the Design Center Linz. They were not there for Sabalenka. They were there for Alex Eala, the 20-year-old Filipina ranked number 46 in the world, who has never won a Grand Slam, who just dropped from a career-high number 29 after failing to defend her Miami Open points. Sabalenka's practice session was sparsely attended. A few dozen fans watched politely, applauding her powerful ground strokes with measured enthusiasm. On the next court over, Eala's practice session was a spectacle. Fans pressed against the barriers, phones raised, voices raised in song. The contrast was impossible to ignore. For Sabalenka, who has spent years building her brand, winning titles, and climbing to the top of the rankings, the moment was a gut punch. She had earned her place. She had fought for every ranking point, every Grand Slam title, every moment of glory. And yet, a player who had never made a Grand Slam semifinal was drawing crowds that she could only dream of. The Eala effect, the phenomenon of packed stadiums, crashing ticket systems, and unprecedented fan devotion, has been documented for months. At the Australian Open, Eala's pre-tournament press conference drew 196,000 views, more than 6 times the views of Carlos Alcaraz and nearly 20 times the views of Sabalenka herself. In Dubai, ticket sales jumped 48% year-on-year, a spike directly attributable to Eala's presence. At the Miami Open, Eala's jersey sales accounted for 57% of all merchandise sold, more than every other player in the field combined. But seeing it in person on a practice court in Austria was different. This was not The photograph that would ignite a firestorm was taken by a tournament photographer who happened to be positioned at the perfect angle. The image captured 2 practice courts, side by side. On the left, Alex Eala was surrounded by thousands of Filipino fans, their flags waving, their phones raised, their faces alight with adoration. On the right, Aryna Sabalenka stood alone, her powerful strokes echoing in near silence, a handful of spectators politely applauding from a distance. The contrast could not have been starker. and when the image went viral, it exposed the uncomfortable truth that the tennis establishment had been trying to ignore. The world number one, the four-time Grand Slam champion, the most dominant player in women's tennis, could not fill a practice court. Alex Eala, ranked number 46, who has never won a Grand Slam, could. Within hours, the photograph had been shared millions of times across social media platforms. Filipino fans celebrated it as proof of their hero's global appeal. Tennis analysts debated its implications for the sport, and Sabalenka's supporters expressed sympathy for a champion who had done everything right but was still being overlooked. "She's won 4 Grand Slams," one fan wrote. "She's been world number 1 for 2 years. What more does she have to do?" Another fan pointed to the cultural significance of the image. "This isn't about tennis, it's about representation. Filipinos have been waiting generations for a star like Alex. Of course they're going to show up." Sabalenka's post-practice comments added fuel to the fire. In an interview that was released shortly after the photograph went viral, the Belarusian star did not hold back. "I've been world number 1.
The Eala effect has been a topic of intense discussion in tennis circles for months. The phenomenon, packed stadiums, crashing ticket systems, unprecedented fan devotion, has followed Eala from Melbourne to Dubai to Miami to Linz. But the photograph from Linz captured the phenomenon in a way that no spreadsheet could. To understand why a player ranked number 46 commands a nation, you have to understand the Filipino diaspora. The Philippines has over 115 million people. The diaspora adds millions more: nurses in Dubai, engineers in California, caregivers in Canada. For decades, this massive global community had no tennis player to call their own. They watched as other nations celebrated their champions. They cheered for players who didn't look like them, who didn't share their history, who didn't understand their struggles. Then came Alex Eala. She left the Philippines at 12 years old to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. She sacrificed her childhood, her comfort, her proximity to family, all for the chance to chase a dream. She climbed from number 140 to number 29 in a single year. She defeated 3 Grand Slam champions in one tournament. She became the first Filipina to crack the top 50, then the top 40, then the top 30. And along the way, she never forgot where she came from. She wore the sampaguita in her hair at Wimbledon.
Aryna Sabalenka's frustration is understandable. She has done everything the sport has asked of her. She has won Grand Slams, climbed to number 1, dominated the tour for 2 years. She has built a brand, cultivated a social media following, and engaged with fans in a way that few top players do. But it has not been enough. The numbers tell a painful story. At the Australian Open, Eala's press conference drew 196,000 views, 20 times Sabalenka's 9,000. At the Miami Open, Eala's jersey outsold every other player in the field combined. In Linz, the photograph from their practice sessions went viral for all the wrong reasons. Sabalenka has tried to adapt. She has posted dance videos on Instagram, shared behind-the-scenes content, and opened up about her personal life in ways that humanize her. She has even joked about the disparity, saying that she might need to start messaging Nike Instagram and putting some pressure on to get the custom kits that other players receive. But the Eala effect is not something that can be manufactured. It is not something that can be bought or sold or strategized. It is organic, authentic, and deeply rooted in the Filipino experience. And for a competitor like Sabalenka, who has spent her entire career earning everything she has, that is a hard pill to swallow. The photograph from Linz was a turning point. It forced Sabalenka to confront a reality that she had been trying to ignore.
The tension between Aryna Sabalenka and Alex Eala is not a rivalry in the traditional sense. They have never played each other. They have never exchanged harsh words. They've never been pitted against each other by anything other than circumstance. But the photograph from Linz has changed that. It has created a narrative, a story of two players, one at the peak of the sport, one at the peak of popularity, whose paths are converging, and the tennis world is watching. For Sabalenka, the challenge is to accept that the ranking system does not capture the full value of players like Eala. The sport is changing, the fans are changing, and if she wants to remain relevant, she must adapt. For Eala, the challenge is to convert her popularity into results. The clay season stretches before her: Stuttgart, Madrid, Rome, Roland Garros. The Czech curse remains unbroken. Her record against players from the Czech Republic stands at 0-13, but she has something that no ranking can measure: the love of a nation that will follow her anywhere. The photograph from Linz will be remembered as a turning point. It captured a moment when the old guard of tennis was forced to confront a new reality. The ranking system, designed to reward consistency and results, is failing to capture the full value of players who connect with fans on a deeper level. And the sport must adapt, or be left behind. As Sabalenka prepares for the clay season, she carries with her the sting of being overlooked.
Aryna Sabalenka walked onto the practice court at the Design Center Linz expecting the usual routine. Instead, she found herself surrounded by thousands of Philippine flags, the chants of "Laban, Alex" echoing through the arena. The fans were not there for her. They were there for Alex Eala, the 20-year-old Filipina ranked number 46 in the world. The photograph that captured the contrast, Eala surrounded by thousands, Sabalenka practicing in near silence, went viral. It exposed an uncomfortable truth. The world number one, the four-time Grand Slam champion, the most dominant player in women's tennis, could not fill her own court. Sabalenka's frustration boiled over in a post-practice interview. "I've been world number one for 2 years," she said. "I've won 4 Grand Slams, and yet I look at the stands and I see flags for someone else. It's frustrating." The Eala effect is real, it is powerful, and it is forcing the tennis establishment to confront uncomfortable truths about the future of the sport. The ranking system, designed to reward consistency and results, is failing to capture the full value of players who connect with fans on a deeper level. As the clay season continues, Stuttgart, Madrid, Rome, Roland Garros, the tension between Sabalenka and Eala will